Alright guys, here it is. I get asked this question a lot. How much did it cost me to manual swap my IS300? How much did it cost me to convert my IS300 from automatic to a 5-speed? And it's probably not going to cost you the same amount. I believe that someone out there could probably do it cheaper if you could get the parts right or knew the right people for the right deals. But more than likely it's probably going to cost more than this. Also considering that I did all of the labor myself, that would probably cost you a lot if you can't do it yourself, which is really not that difficult. The first thing I like to buy when I'm doing a swap like this, a big swap of any type, a motor swap or converting a car to automatic to manual, I like to get the most expensive part first and then buy the cheapest part as I get down closer and closer. The first thing I bought was the W55 with 2 containers. I'd recommend doing this if you're doing a swap. I waited and looked around until I found somebody within a reasonable distance selling majority of everything they needed to do the swap. Somebody had already collected almost all the stuff, didn't want to do it no more, decided to sell it. That's probably the best route to do. If you try and buy each individual piece, it's definitely going to cost you a lot more money. So I started by finding the W55 with someone who had a majority of the parts. And I'll show you everything else I got along with this swap that I didn't even use. The master cylinder, it came with the clutch lines, a slave cylinder, and it also came, one of the totes I got, came with all types of arms, stuff you really don't even need to convert, but it's nice to have. A little bit of extra I got with the stuff. I got the other tote and it came with a manual cluster, manual steering wheel, which I do think I'm gonna put in my car. It's in way better condition than mine. A full wire harness from a manual IS300. Amplifier, everything. So if I truly wanted to make my car a real factory style manual, this was everything. I'd put this in here. It even came with all the fuse boxes, trims. It also came with the shift boot. You can see that in some of my older videos. It's already in the car. Maybe I'll show you that in a second. Literally came with everything out of a manual IS300. And the key. Can't show you the transmission. You have to look back at that. But it also came with the trim, with the shift boot. Came with the pedals, the clutch and the brake pedal. For the W55 and 2 containers full of swap parts, I paid $1,000. I didn't add in the travel time. I drove about 5 hours to pick that up. So I probably spent a good amount in gas and food. I should probably add $100 to that. So that is what I think is the best way to go to save a lot of money on doing this swap, is finding somebody with all those parts. I really plan to maybe even, I'm not going to use all these parts. I'm not going to take my car that far. I probably will end up selling some of this stuff to get some of my money back. Flywheel and the clutch kit, I just ordered an eBay kit, nothing really fancy. This is where it could cost you more money, or it could even cost you less money. They had cheaper clutch kits. They have way more expensive clutch kits. I just bought an OEM style, and that costed me $389. I got a good deal on a Driveshaft, but I did buy a lot of the stuff over a year ago, so things are more expensive today. Either way, I'd got a good deal on a Driveshaft. Driveshafts, you could be looking at spending quite a few $100s for the drive shaft. So my drive shaft, it costed me $100. Factory OEM style used drive shaft. So the ARP hardware I bought, the flywheel and clutch kit I bought from eBay came with flywheel bolts, did not come with pressure plate bolts, but I was not even too happy with the flywheel bolts they gave me, and I'll show you why. So I looked for 2JZ ARP flywheel bolts and clutch pressure plate bolts, but I kind of had a hard time finding them, so I had to find them for a different vehicle that would work for the IS300. And I'll show you what ARP I got. For the pressure plate, I got the Toyota, if you can see it, 2.2L 20R and the 2.4 liter 22R. Those are the pressure plate bolts I got. Worked perfect. The flywheel bolts, they were for a Toyota 4AG flywheel bolts. Now, the bolts that they gave me with the kit, this is the bolt they gave me, and it came with a washer. I've never put a washer on a flywheel, so it's not something I was wanting to do. I'd imagine these bolts are fine and you could use them. I probably wouldn't use the lock washer though. And they're also the automatic flywheel. They are exactly the same length. So even if you really had to, you could probably reuse the automatic flywheel bolts. They're just as long as these. But the ARP bolts I got, they are actually a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. And they worked perfectly. So I was way more happy with these. They threaded in a little further. So the ARP hardware, that costed me $55 for the flywheel and the pressure plate bolts. Next thing is a rear main seal. An OEM rear main seal costed me $30, give or take. It may cost you a little more. You can probably get one a little cheap, just depending on what kind of seal you want to get. I recommend getting the Toyota OEM one. Last thing on my list that costed me for this swap was a trip to the parts store, gear oil, and gaskets. I spent around $80 on 3 quarts of gear oil and my exhaust gaskets and a couple cans of brake cleaner. So, what it costed me altogether to do this swap, grand total of $1,654. $1,654. That's what it cost me to convert my automatic IS300 to a manual. I forgot the $100 in gas in the trips I made. So I guess really this swap costed me $1,754. Thank you for watching. Comment down below. Let me know how much it cost you to 5-speed swap your IS300. I'd like to know if it cost you more money or if it costed you less. Definitely let me know if my video helped you out, and smash that like button.